Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's reading from Brilliant as the Sun, a retelling of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Divine Protection. We are reading from chapter 5 at the moment. Daksha curses Sage Narada. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatamham bande Shri Gurum Deenatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. Verse 25. We read earlier on that how Daksha, he had 10,000 sons and they all became the devotees of the Lord. Then he had another 1,000 sons, and from there onwards, let's read. Verse 25, when they reached maturity, Daksha summoned them, "My dear sons, it is my duty to populate the world, and as my sons, it is your duty to assist me." Bowing low before their father, the eldest Savalashva said, "Father, we have heard that to beget good progeny, you first underwent austerities. We seek your permission to do likewise." Daksha hesitated. What if these boys also renounce the world like their other brothers? No, there was nothing to fear. Narad misled the Haryashavas, the 10,000 sons he had earlier on. The sage would surely not do the same thing again. After seeing the pain Daksha had suffered the first time, he smiled and said, "You may go to Narayana Saras. In that holy place perform great vows and austerities." Verse 26. The Savalashvas made their way to Narayan Saras and began their practices. By regularly bathing in the holy places, holy lake there, all the materialistic desires in their heart dissipated. Instructed by the sages, they daily chanted mantras beginning with Omkara and underwent severe course of austerities. Verse 27 and 28, for the first few months they survived on only air and water, spending their days and nights reciting the following mantra: "We offer our respectful obeisance to Lord Narayan, the Supreme Person, who resides in his transcendental abode." Many months passed like this until one day Narad returned. Then Narad returned, and so they daily chanted mantras beginning with Omkar and underwent a severe course of austerities. Verses 27 and 28. For the first few months they survived only on air and water, spending their days and nights reciting the following mantra: "We offer our respectful obeisances to Lord Narayan, Supreme Person, who resides in this transcendental abode." Many months passed like this until one day Narad returned there on pilgrimage. He examined the 1,000 brothers worshipping Narayan. They looked very much like the Haryashavas and must surely be their brothers. The sage entered their midst and spoke to them exactly as he had previously done to the Haryashavas. Then he rose to leave. "I will return in 2 weeks. Please contemplate what I have told you. When I return, we will speak again." Like their brothers before them, the Savalashvas also discussed Narad's analogy. When Narad returned, he gathered them around and asked them what they had understood. The two had properly grasped his meaning. Pleased with their conclusion, he said, "You remind me of your elder brothers, the Haryashavas. They're all well-behaved, intelligent, and devoted to Narayan. You should follow their example and dedicate yourself to the cultivation of devotional service to Narayan." "What of our father's order?" said the eldest Savalashva. Verse 31, Narad said, "If you truly understand religious principles, then you will follow in the footsteps of your elder brothers. You may have heard of the celestial Marut brothers, who because of their filial love enjoyed heavenly pleasures together. My dear boys, I advise you to follow your elder brothers. You will thus be promoted to the spiritual world and enjoy undying happiness in the company." Verses 32 and 33. The Savalashvas asked if they may confer privately before deciding. Narad agreed, saying, "I pray you will make the right choice." After Narad departed, the Savalashvas discussed their options for several hours. Finally, they decided that they too would fully dedicate themselves to devotional service, renouncing family life altogether. One of them said, "Brothers, just as when a night has passed, it never returns, let us follow our elder brothers and never return to the materialistic life." Many called out in unison, "This is the right choice." Another said, "This decision will surely attract Narayan's mercy." Meanwhile, back in his palace, Daksha sat with his head in his hands. Panchajani, his wife, who was the mother of these Savalashvas, the 1,000 brothers, stroked his head. "Beloved, why are you so worried?" Daksha sighed, "I have been having bad dreams at night, and in the day I have seen evil portents. O Panchajani, I fear something has happened to our sons. My lord, they are all capable of looking after themselves. I am sure they are well." "Then why have they not sent any word? Normally they will send us a message with sages who pass this way, but I have heard nothing for many months." "Maybe no one has travelled this way from Narayan Saras," suggested his wife. "Maybe," said Daksha, not sounding convinced. "Why not put out the word that you would like to meet with anyone coming from Narayana's Saras?" Daksha's eyes lit up. "Good idea." Immediately he sent out messengers to all the marketplaces and parks, asking if anyone had recently travelled from Narayan Saras. Within hours, several elderly ascetics came to him. "Did you see my sons? They were performing austerities in Narayan Saras. Are they faring well?" Each of the ascetics reported the same thing. The brothers had spoken with Narad and then followed their elder brothers. They would not be returning home. Verse 35, Daksha's face went white. He swayed back and forth. Panchajani hastened to her husband's side and helped him to a seat. The ascetics turned and left. For several moments, Daksha sat with his head in his hands, muttering to himself, "I do not believe it. I forgave Narad once, and now he has again stabbed me in the back." His breath came in rasps. Panchajani tried to calm him. "My lord, please do not become angry. The sage only means well." He jumped up from his seat, shouting, "Well, what do you mean? I have been sorely wronged." Just then a servant entered. "Lord, Sage Narada is here and desires an audience with you." Daksha's eyes narrowed and his lips trembled in anger. Narada, ignoring his wife's pleas, he pushed the servant aside and strode to the outer chamber, where Narad stood peacefully strumming his veena. Verse 36, Narad screamed, "Daksha!" Narad smiled, "Ah, my dear Daksha, I have been thinking that by Narayan's grace I have delivered all your sons from material existence. Only you remain, my dear friend. I encourage you also accept the path of transcendence." Daksha's face went bright red. "You have a nerve. You wear the dress of saintly person, but you are not actually a saint. Although I am a married man, I am saintlier than you. Really, you are no friend of mine. By encouraging my sons to renounce this world, you have done me an abominable injustice." Narad lowered his head, saddened to see Daksha's materialistic mindset. Daksha, however, thought Narad was feeling ashamed. Verse 37, puffing out his chest, Daksha said, "And so you should repent. Because of you, my sons have become degraded. They have not paid their debts to saintly people, the gods and me, their father. They are undergoing a period of celibacy to discharge their debts to the saints. They had intended to return home, marry and perform sacrificial rites to pay their debts to the god and have children to repay it to me. You, a most sinful man, have misled them into wrongly renouncing their obligations. You have brought about their ruin both in this life and the next." Narad spoke calmly, "My dear Daksha, please listen. Your sons have fully surrendered to Krishna. They are therefore free of all debts. This is the final decision of the scriptures." Verse 38, Daksha became even more enraged. "There is no point even speaking to someone as evil as you. Not only have you harmed my innocent sons, but now you dare defame Krishna." Narad looked shocked. "How I am defaming Lord Krishna? You misrepresent his teachings. There is no justification for what you have done. You should not have encouraged those boys to renounce prematurely. Shame on you, Narad. You pose yourself as one of the Lord's confidential associates, but you are just an impostor. Verse 39. Real devotees are kind to conditioned souls and are eager to do us good. You simply create enmity with those who have never wronged you, or you break others' friendships and foment quarrel between erstwhile friends. Are you not ashamed of posing as a devotee while performing such abominable acts? Narad said, My dear Daksh, I am not creating enmity with anyone. I simply encouraged your sons to renounce sense gratification. This is good for them. It will bring them peace of mind. I have not harmed your sons but helped them. Verse 40. Daksha's fury mounted. If you think convincing them to renounce the world will make them detached, you are wrong. Do you not understand anything? Until one has fully realized his spiritual nature, one cannot give up desires or material enjoyment. Do you think simply dressing as renunciant as you have done actually makes one detached? You do not understand, pleaded Narad. Please don't unnecessarily give way to anger. They did not artificially renounce. So Narad is explaining to Daksha the mindset of his sons, the Savalashvas. I convinced them that material enjoyment leads to suffering. This conviction aroused in them a genuine sense of renunciation. Verse 41. Daksha glared at Narad. I am not disputing that material enjoyment causes unhappiness, but you know nothing of how to give up such desires. Let me tell you the only sure way. People need to experience a life of material enjoyment while simultaneously cultivating spiritual knowledge. Then when they experience the suffering associated with their enjoyment, they will detest sense gratification. Being convinced by someone else does not make one renounced as personal experience. Verse 42, Daksha drew himself up to his full height. How dare Narad add insult to injury? He spoke in barely controlled tones. You accuse me of misunderstanding the situation and unnecessarily giving way to anger. Let me tell you a thing or two, Narad. Although I live with my wife and children, I honestly follow the Vedic injunctions. By so doing, I enjoy life without committing sins. I have performed all kinds of sacrifices to the gods, the sages, the forefathers, and mankind. All these sacrifices require great vows. Therefore, I am not wanting either for knowledge or tolerance. I have been more than magnanimous by forgiving you the first time you misled my unsuspecting sons. Now, unprovoked, you have wronged me a second time. I cannot tolerate it. My dear Daksha, I am not accusing you of anything. Your anger is because of a misunderstanding. Verse 43, Daksha snorted, Misunderstanding? Misunderstanding. What have I misunderstood, Narad? You have made me lose my sons once, and now again you have done the same inauspicious thing. He paced up and down, seething with fury. Narad must suffer in the same way that he was suffering. This was the proper punishment for such a heinous man. Turning abruptly to face Narad, Daksha snarled, As you are a fool who does not know how to behave toward other, I curse you to never have a permanent residence. Narad lowered his eyes. Verse 44, he had the power to counter curse Daksha, but that was not his nature. Anyway, such a curse was really a boon. Now he could constantly travel and preach Krishna's glories. He looked up, So be it, I accept your curse. So here we see that Daksha, out of fury, of knowing that his 1,000 sons have also renounced the material life, just like the 10,000 sons before, the Haryashvas, he has cursed Narad, but Naradji, he is so happy. He has taken the curse as a benediction that he can travel now everywhere all the time, and he can preach the glories of Lord's names. Narad held Daksha's gaze. Maybe now Daksha had spent his anger, it would be possible to help him renounce the world. After all, Daksha was not an ordinary man. He had accrued much piety which might enable him to attain pure devotion. He smiled. I hope we can now put this behind us and speak as friends. Daksha scowled and turning on his heels strode away. So we'll continue next time with chapter 6, Daksha's descendants. Thank you for joining. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.